Okay, so I'm slip slapping nice and soft, working the blush pink right into my bleach sand. I can pick up bleach sand and create more light sections as I go. My brush is moist but not wet. I've wet it and blotted off on a paper towel. So I'll continue going back into more pink as I work away from the section. And I'll create the pink coming all the way, cresting that bleach sand. Now I'm going to go into aloe. That's the color we based the canvas in to start with. Sometimes we work wet on wet, and right now the canvas is dry. We had base coated it. This way, if I wet coat it, the aloe is going to choke out more of the pink and the bleach sand than I want. So I'm just working those two together, pink and aloe, picking up more pink as I need it. I don't want to lose all of that pink. I like to bring a little of the aloe into the pink. I can even bring a little up into the bleach sand area. Pink, aloe. Work my way. Everybody's going to have a different amount of color they want to see, but we want the light, soft pink colors coming from the left top. And then I go into thicket. So I'm working the wet thicket back to fade into the aloe. Even again a little into the pink. If my brush becomes dry, I'll wet it, blot it on my toweling, and back in again. Your brush, if it's too dry, it won't soften and blend your colors together. And a lot of times it's a great idea to have just a damp brush. So I'll just show you here. I could have a damp brush sitting here. It's dried off, only damp. I can just take that brush and nice and softly blend where I might end up with a dry patch showing. But that's just a clean brush that's just dampened and dried on my paper towel, or on my, I actually use an old towel. And we nice and softly blend these colors together. So you can see how my color is carrying over. I'm going to bring my thicket all the way up into my aloe. So if my aloe's dried there, whoops, I'm just going to grab a little more aloe, work it into it so that we're seeing a little more of the graduation of the colors. Again, if I get, see here, I'm going to get some dry patches. I kind of did a bit just to show you. Wipe, clean my damp brush, using that damp brush. And it's damp. If it's wet, that's an issue again. So nice and soft, just blend those colors, work my way over. And then I'm gonna, out of the blue, grab a little bit of medium Hauser and just work. I'm gonna moisten my brush again, it's too dry. And work a little of that medium Hauser so that it's nice and soft. There's just a little bit of a sharper green in here. Just giving the indication that there's a little something happening in the background. Back to my thicket. And the aloe. Working those two together. And then even over here, you can choose maybe a little more pink. Everybody's going to want a different look. And you're going to see when you look at the finished piece what you might like to see. Again, my damp brush, just to soften that. Thicket. And now we're going into black green. Real harsh. And we want the black green to be nice and strong. I want that black green to be my nice contrast here. I want to be able to see the light of the dandelion fluff showing up. And this is what's going to give us that. Nice and soft again. Anywhere I'm seeing I'm getting those little dry patches. You're still going to have some, but it's not a big issue. And again, it's really nice and strong and dark I want over here. I really want that black green to strengthen up. This is probably a little more the angle that I want this to be. But you see, I'm doing X's. I'm not just sweeping like a sunset. I want to have direction in here. I want your eye not to be pulled one way or the other. I just want it to be working and blending the colors together. I can just apply some of the black green all along this edge here just to get a nice dark section here. Work the colors together. Nice and soft. Working those colors. You see how pretty they fade into each other, yet it's still giving me a nice dark contrast. They fade over. So I don't want it to end up with just one color on one side. So of course, once I get over into this area, I'm going to pick up, say, maybe a little of the medium Hauser. And put a little of that in here. Just nice and soft. I think I'd like a little more of the black green up here. A little more of the depth. Wipe my brush. Work it into the thicket. And I'm going to put some pink up in there as well. Just like we did with the medium Hauser, how we're going to have that. Now I'm cleaning my brush, because once you add a really dark color, it kind of makes it hard to continue blending, because that dark wants to carry over further than you want. So I'll work it like that, nice and softly, blend those in, still allowing me to keep it fairly dark up there. Here's my soft, damp blending brush with no color. And we work those colors together. I'm liking the look of that, and now I need to get my pink. Remember I said I wanted to put a little of the blush pink in here? I'm going to take a little of the royal fuchsia too, because I want to see some pink in the background, implying that we've got some nice blooms and whatnot in behind in this garden. It's blurring out the garden is what we're doing here. It's in our background. We just want to have a little bit. So this is the royal fuchsia I'm working in here, getting a little of that strong pink in a few places. It looks really pretty in there. And this is your own design. You're gonna create your own background. And once you get going on this kind of a background, here's my soft damp brush. I'll just nice and soft blend where it's ended. You have to clean that damp brush every now and then too, though. And I think I could go for a little more of the medium Hauser back up in here. So do you see how it's just kind of, you know, when you see those photographs where the photographers have it all blurred out in the background, that's what we're doing here. We're blurring it out. You know there's stuff back there, and you know that something's happening there. And our little girl's going to cover a lot of this, but in the meantime, you create your nice background, and the best part you like is where you're going to put her. It's pretty near almost a guarantee. While you're creating your background, you might think, gee, I could put this pattern I really like on here, or I could put this on here. So there's lots of ideas of different things that can come from something like a background like this. Again, I'll just nice and soft. And you can always come back in afterwards and dry brush in a little bit of colors here and there too. So I kind of always tend to shade a little around my outer edges. And I'll just take a little of aloe and that. And a lot of times I just pick up a little of the colors that we've been blending together. If I see up here, I think, okay, well that little patch I want to cover nice and soft. I kind of just pick into those colors that we used. I think that's about the same up here too, so I'm liking that. I might want a little more of the medium Hauser. And I think here, a little chunk. And maybe a little up here. But the whole thing is this is still damp, wet with paint. When I say wet, work while it's wet, I don't mean water. I'm meaning wet paint. The moisture's in the paint. And you work while your paint is wet. So that's why I did a section at a time and I worked my way over. Now if I want to clean my brush out, I can see through up here where my light is. So if I want to kind of tone that a little bit. I don't want to have to work the whole thing all over again. I can take my bleach sand, come back and put a little bit more on top, because now it shouldn't dig holes in the aloe because I've got the other color underneath. And I can just go with the bleach sand and my blush pink. And you see how strong the blush pink looks there now because the bleach sand underneath it isn't as wet. So I'll just work those two together, but we still have that light section that it's coming from. Work them into each other. And here I go where I talked about you don't want to have to get into the whole thing again. That's what I'm pretty near doing. So you have to kind of know when to say when. I'll come from here and work into this. Just soften it out and drop my brush and back away from the picture. Come on now, Wendy, you can do it. All right, we'll be back later.